Hello and good morning to our listeners from around the world. I want to welcome you to another edition of This Morning with Soulivity, broadcasting live from our studio right here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and I'm so glad that you're here. I'm joined by another very special friend of mine and co host, the beautiful Teresa Greco. Good morning, Teresa.
Good morning, Brian, and good morning, listeners.
Wow. How was your weekend?
Well, it was spring cleaning
Ooh. Ooh,
at my house,
spring.
indoors and outdoors, putting coats away, boots away, doing laundry. Um,
Swapping out
yeah,
clothes.
cleaning my pantry out too. Lots of like food there,
Wow.
and then outside, getting that prepped up. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it was a nice weekend here. I don't know
Mhm.
how it was by you, but the weather warmed up. This week is supposed to go back to cold. I'm in Toronto, Ontario,
Yeah.
Canada, for people listening. So this morning it shows just a 4 Celsius. But last week we had summer here. We went temperatures up
I
to like 30.
I
So,
know. And,
mm,
and just for our American folks who haven't traveled abroad, 30 is very warm. That's 30 Celsius.
yeah.
I have a trick around that one time I'll probably show everybody around how to do the conversion really quickly. But anyway, no, yeah, it was hot here too in
Mm,
DC where I mean yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday it was like in the eight, it was like almost 80 or 80 in the 80s. I
mhm.
mean, you get used to wearing like, if you're running an errand, wearing like sweats or something, right? Because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's gonna be kind of cool. Teresa, I was like, "Ooh, ooh, man, it's warm out here."
Nice.
Oh, man, but listen, it is what how's that song? "It's getting hot in here."
Mhm.
Because we've got a great show for you guys today. But before we get started, I want to remind our audience, listen, we want your questions, your comments, your thoughts. Just post them right to directly to our chats on Facebook and YouTube. And we'll do shout outs to you. We'll get your thoughts on air and we'll have this interactive conversation because this is about conversations that empower. So, anyway, I wanted to begin by asking you a question, Teresa. Do you remember your first job?
Well, I have my first part-time job that I did for 10 years
Mhm.
while I went to school. So throughout high school, university, also my BEd program. I worked there for 10 years. So I did that at an old age home or long care facility.
Wow.
And then after that, then I stepped into teaching, which is,
Huh.
yes, which I've been doing with parents, students, and teachers for 26 years now.
Wow. So you've been like a caregiver in different ways for a long time.
Yes, I've worked with all age groups. I actually really love that to say that I've worked with children as as young as 4. Actually,
Mhm.
earlier,
Mhm.
I worked in Montessori, so Montessori is actually like 2.5,
Mhm.
all the way to the other end of the spectrum where I worked with seniors as well.
Well, it's funny because I was trying when I was trying to figure out how I was gonna answer this question myself because like my first like real job working for somebody was I had a paper route back in the day. I was like young, one of those young guys,
Mhm.
enterprising businessman. But I decided that since that wasn't like a W-2, which is like your wage earner,
Mhm.
my first job was in high school. I was working for a black-owned civil engineering and mechanical engineering firm. I
Mm.
actually I wrote all these letters and I sent them out to all these firms because I really wanted a job really badly. Who can say that nowadays? Like, you want a job.
Yes.
And I got this job working, doing a lot of like I was doing errands, but I was mainly my main part was in technology. They had this computer system that they inputted certain stuff into, but I figured out how to create macros for them where they
Mm,
could automate all these processes of copying information from one thing to another and all that kind of stuff.
cool.
So I've always so again, like you, there was always this pull toward technology. And I think that has been one consistent through line that has been there where I've worked for large and small companies doing, in part something around technology. So kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool that in this century that we've been a part of that just because of where we
Right. Right, right, exactly.
It's
With the,
right.
this revolution of technology and
Yeah,
all
that
that.
we exactly. We knew life before
Mhm.
technology,
Mhm.
and then as, the birth of it
Mhm.
and how it's been transitioning and becoming, ever more important in everybody's lives. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
cool.
And I think that's one reason why I love today's hot topic, which is about the secrets to happiness, specifically at work. Because I think that the technology in part has opened doors for people to kind of live their passion, which is what Soulivity is all about, in different ways, right? I mean, the information age brought forth all these new types of jobs, even in traditionally, like, static fields, like, even mechanical engineering or some of the engineering kind of things. Now you have all this technology, like CAD, for instance, is something that's kind of more recent, right? In terms of how people design stuff. But I wanted to try to jump into this first by talking about an interesting article in the Atlantic called "The Secret to Happiness at Work," written by Arthur Brooks. And the first paragraph reads: Every year, Gallup asked a sample of American adults what might seem to be a rather loaded question: How much do you like your job? The results may surprise you. The portion who say they are completely satisfied at work has risen dramatically over the past 2 decades, from 41% in 2001 to 55% in 2019. In 2020, despite the fact that millions of Americans had shifted to remote work, 89% said that they were either completely or somewhat satisfied with their job. Now, as I'm reading that, Teresa, I'm thinking, you know, when people do surveys, the the words that they use in the surveys are really important, right?
Mhm, mhm,
And so when they say that in 2020, 89% of people said that they were either completely or somewhat satisfied, that would denote that there's this overwhelming majority of people that are probably happy, right? I mean, if you're looking at the
mhm.
number, but what does it really mean, that somewhat piece, right? I mean, I don't think that means, I mean, that could be like 10%. I'm 10% happy at work or in my job. Um, but I kind of want to explore this a little bit because society has, how we've been socialized. Society has kind of dictated, specifically in capitalistic societies, that having a really good job with a really good pay and a good title is something that's prestigious and that you should be happy. But is that really the case a lot of times? What do you think?
I think that just to address the study that you wrote, I don't know how many people they asked.
Yeah,
It's something
right, right,
a sample of
right.
10, honestly, because because statistically, and this is where it's been tracked over several decades,
Right,
um, Ameri
right.
Americans are actually less happy now than they were
Mhm.
in the 50s, and
Right.
and that percentage is actually in the 50s. of overall life happiness, not just happiness at work. And so I can't, that for me, that doesn't translate because
Mhm.
86% at work doesn't make sense to, oh yeah, I'm super happy at work, but then I'm less happy with my life. Like that just
Right.
that doesn't make sense. I think that that was a sample of literally 10 people because
I completely agree, and when you
Mhm,
add to that the whole, like, what questions are they actually asking, I'm a little that seems a little suspect. I like the more longitudinal studies, like the ones that
mhm,
you're talking about, because I think that, I could understand that there might be a rise in people liking their work a little more because of what we said before, like technology. Like,
mhm,
when I was growing up and when you were growing up, it was the typical, your parents say, go into a very solid, field, doctor, lawyer, teacher, manager, yeah, accountant, something like that, where
mhm,
it's something that people are always going to need, right?
mhm,
But that, as in my son's, age, game designers came around. Well, if you said to someone that grew up in the 40s or 50s, "Oh, you're gonna design a game? That's not gonna make you any money," right?
mhm,
But game
mhm,
designers are, they're utilized across almost every field because of, like, interfaces that people need to use to, explore different programs. So I just thought that was interesting that, like you were saying, like, I don't think that it's risen as much as that poll states. And again, what's the difference between, you know, being happy in your life, w- that work is part of, or are you just satisfied with the fact that you have a certain status quo and certain quality of life, even though you're unhappy, right?
mhm, mhm. And I think that ties in to this idea that those type of positions, the ones that you named, because they're going to provide you with a good amount of money,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that is going to inherently lend itself to having a happy life.
right,
But, studies have shown that making more money does not lead to you living happier.
right,
That it turns out that research has revealed that really, once all of your needs are met, then the amount of money on top of that really doesn't make you that much happier.
right.
So, depending on the type of lifestyle that you live,
Mhm.
having all of your needs met for that type of lifestyle. So
Right.
whatever your expectations are, because people have lots of different type of expectations for the types of lives that they live, maybe because of the families that they were born into, where they live on this planet, lots of differentiating factors as to,
Mhm.
what kind of life you would like to live. And so once you've achieved that, apparently there's only like a $10,000 threshold beyond that, and then
Wow.
after that, it's like, oh, like there is no measure of increased happiness. People think, "If I just keep making more and more money,
Right,
I'm just
right.
getting happier." And actually research doesn't shows that that is not true. So,
Exactly.
when I go around to different schools because I do tech training, I don't tell the students to go and pick positions that are going to make them a lot of money. I tell them to pick positions that are going to fulfill their purpose here on the
Mm,
planet, their
mm.
passion and purpose. And I mean, if being a doctor means that you're fulfilling that, then great.
Right.
But just because it's going to make a lot of money should not be the positions that we're pushing on our children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which gets to something we're gonna talk about, after the next break, which is, what does happiness at work really mean, right? How do we get to, defining that and kind of growing into that if we're not there today? So, Teresa, we're going to take a quick break, everybody. And when we come back, we'll talk more about the secrets of happiness at work and what does that really mean? So we'll be back in about about 60 seconds.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Hey there, this is Brian Wesley Johnson, and I want to welcome you back to This Morning with Soulivity. I'm joined today by my beautiful co-host, Teresa Greco, and we are talking about secrets to happiness at work. And I think the question that we want to invite all of you to help us answer is, what does happiness at work really mean? And so I want to start this next segment with this quote by Steve Jobs, who gives us a clue as to what that means. And that is, your work is going to fill a large part of your life. And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And that's by Steve Jobs, the late great Steve Jobs, formerly CEO of Apple. Wow, that gives us a little bit of a clue, huh?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What do you?
I
What,
don't know how many people can say that they love their
yeah,
job. Like that's a bit of a far stretch. I think liking.
right. Like it first, right? You got to get to the like. Like I really like you. I like you too. That kind of
love
thing.
love is a bit of a stretch, I think. But liking, yeah.
Right. And so let's pull on that string a little bit, because I think I like that. I like this idea, Teresa, of that this is an evolutionary process, right? To learn what it means to be happy at work, right? Where you just don't jump right into it and you go, "Oh, I'm perfectly satisfied and everything is bliss." Right? I mean, I think that you go through stages in your life where you evolve. Do you agree?
Yes, I think that being happy at work is ultimately being happy with yourself.
Mm,
It
mm.
all starts with yourself. So, for those maybe that don't know, the topic that we're talking about is my area of specialization. I
Our
am
happiness coach.
Yes, I am a happiness coach and also the host of the Steps to Happiness show here on Soulivity TV. So,
Yeah.
if the topic we're talking about this morning is of particular interest to you, it is what I love to talk about. And so, we are just extending this into talking about happiness, not just in your life, but at work. And so, back to your question, it is important that it always starts with us. Everything starts with us, that we cannot expect our external environment to be in such a way that we will then feel happy. So expecting that your workplace is going to provide you with that
Yeah.
happiness is an illusion.
Yeah. Preach. Preach. Yeah. Yeah. And again, like in the first segment, we are taught that because we're working and we're making money, we should be happy,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Is all of those that idea that happiness is we're conditioned to believe that it is found in our external environment, in our possessions,
Yep.
positions, titles, degrees, relationships, and experiences.
Hmm. Hmm.
We believe it's tied to that. However, true inner happiness is a part of our original nature, our essential nature. It is part of who we really are. So really what the truth is, we bring our happiness to work. That is the truth. It's
Mm,
not found at
mm.
work. we actually bring it to work, which means that we must establish that connection to our happiness within us first, and then it just goes wherever we go.
Right. 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 Now there may be I think that one aspect, I know this has been true in my own life, that once I knew and felt the happiness within me, right,
Mhm.
that I would understand that the work that I am doing may not be what I wanted to do long term, right? And
Mhm.
that was part of the evolution of, okay, I'm happy and I'm happiest doing these
Mhm.
types of things, right? Where you're now connecting with that passion
Mm.
part of yourself. And maybe this is now not lining up perfectly, right? And that's okay because that's what growing is. So I love this idea, Teresa. Not idea, but I think it's part of what we were meant to do, and that is going within, something you talk about all the time, going within, doing that inner work so that we connect with the truest part of ourselves so that we can be and then do and then have happiness, right?
Yes, that's I agree totally. And I think that when you connect to that and you really hone in and spend time with yourself, you're able to identify those strengths that you have within you and the things that you're passionate about. And how can you bring both of those two things to your purpose?
Mhm. Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
purpose is not, again, something that you find outside of you saying, oh, wow, that looks exciting. Like, look at how my friend Jane is so exciting, excited at work with what she's doing. Or Meryl's in music. Oh, yeah, maybe that's something, I might find purpose in that.
Right.
That's not
Right.
how we identify purpose. It's more of an inner identification. And happiness is one of those tools that can help guide you there, that when we are mindful in every moment of our day and we pay attention to how we're feeling,
Right.
that can be an indicator to you to discover what your purpose is by saying, wow, I'm really enjoying myself when I'm helping others in this
Mhm.
particular position, or I
Mhm.
feel really good when I'm landscaping outside. And it's like, wow, wouldn't it be cool if I could do this all day long? And oh, wow, it feels so good when I'm cooking for my family. I just love
Mm.
experimenting with ingredients and things like that. Well, maybe you should be working in a kitchen. So it is really like tapping into those areas that help you to, again, connect with your inner happiness. And then how can you bring that into the world? That's
Wow.
how we're making our biggest difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. Teresa, you shared with me this fantastic article called "The Four Keys to Happiness" by Simon Thomas, Amelia Simon Thomas. And there's this one passage I want to read as we go to break, and that is, we do not consider happiness to be a momentary emotional state like amusement or pleasure or heart swelling pride. And we don't think you can arrive at happiness by stringing together a stream of positive experiences. Rather, we define happiness as an overarching quality of life that is rich in a variety of emotions, including episodes of anger, sadness, stress. And while it's not ideal for these more challenging emotions to last too long, or have too much influence on how we think, the situations in which they occur are often the ones that fuel our deeper sense of purpose and draw us into meaningful contact with others. And then lastly, it goes into, we define happiness at work in similar terms: feeling an overall sense of enjoyment at work, being able to gracefully handle setbacks, connecting amicably with colleagues, coworkers, clients, and customers, and knowing that your work matters to yourself, your organization, and beyond. Wow.
I want to unpack that after the break. I want to.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with more on the secrets to happiness at work. See how I did
Yay.
that? We'll be right back, everybody.
You can find all the Satana products at our Go shop on Soulivity at go.soulivity.com now. Shop for beauty products, skincare, hair care. It is all there at the Go shop. Go shop Soulivity.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. We are talking about the secrets to happiness at work. And I want to read another quote about this from I got to say because it's not the Oprah Winfrey. She says, your job is not just what you do, what your parents say, what your teachers say, what society says, but to figure out what your heart calling is and be led by that. She is so doggone good.
Yep.
Oh man. So we were just talking about this idea of how to define happiness at work. And in this fantastic article called The 4 Keys to Happiness, it mentions things like having an overall sense of enjoyment, being able to gracefully handle setbacks, connecting with your amicably with your colleagues, your coworkers, and knowing that your work matters, right? I mean, these are really, really important things. And you had some additional thoughts about that, Teresa.
Yeah, the first part of the quote talked about really how are we defining happiness
Yeah.
for ourselves. That is really the important, right? Again, if you're allowing the external to define your happiness, you're not going to tap into it. It's really about discovering what that happiness is like for you. How do you feel happiness physiologically in your body? How do you feel happiness emotionally? Some people feel it more like a sense of peace, a sense of fulfillment, a feeling of joy. I use happiness and joy synonymously, but how do you feel that emotionally? How do you feel that physiologically, as I said, viscerally throughout the body? Does it feel like a sense of calm? Does it feel like a sense of home? I know that's how it feels for me.
Yes.
So defining first what happiness is, and in that particular quote, it says that, happiness is not only feeling the good emotions, but there are going to be situations in life that allow us to feel what we consider to be negative emotions. And that is what life on earth is. Things happen. We're stuck in traffic. We've had an argument. Our kids are all over the place. And yeah, we are going to feel some other emotions. What's important, though, that it also states is that we don't unpack our bags and stay there. We don't ruminate in the situations that are making us feel upset, right? So if there was some kind of altercation at work, we're not ruminating over it for like weeks or something with our boss or whatever might have been that trigger at work, and taking steps, to let that go and come back to your true inner happiness.
My dad would always say, you don't pitch a tent.
Yeah,
you don't like you're out in the wilderness and you're like, well, this is where I'm this was bad, and I'm gonna remind myself that I didn't like this, and and I'm gonna pitch a tent, and you're just right there, and you stay there, and you're gonna stay there, and until you decide to move. I love that, Teresa, though, talking about the fact that life is a myriad of color, right, and emotion, and that you can be happy through all of that, right? Things like having gratitude for certain things, and there's other kinds of states that help frame what those moments are. Like, failure is a part of growth, right? I mean, so those I grew up knowing those as growth opportunities. So when there are challenges and things like those quote unquote negative emotions, there's always something there that I believe is that you're supposed to learn, right?
And work provides us with those opportunities.
Absolutely.
Right, with that feedback that we might get back from our manager, or as you said, those growth opportunities where you're working on a project and maybe didn't turn out the way that you wanted to. So if we look at those challenges as opportunities for us to grow and evolve and learn, then it changes the whole perspective of our life at work and just in life in general.
Now, are some some immediate effects and some mid and long-term effects that are in the form of benefits that we get when we even just start the process, right? Because I want to remind people that listen, this is a journey, right? And that part of the journey is giving certain effort to make it a practice, and then the practice becomes your normal, like your new normal. And so there's some great benefits that come from that. What are some of the benefits that you have seen in your own life and in like people that you're teaching how to be happy, Teresa?
And so I think this next part is going to be a particular interest for anyone who is maybe heading an organization or a
Mhm.
company. So any of
Mhm.
the like entrepreneurs or COs
Mhm.
or really any company owner, that the benefits of having happy people at work. And one of them is that when we are happier with ourselves first, that physiologically we reap many benefits of that.
Wow.
That because we are more resilient to stress, let's say, that
Mhm.
cardiovascular wise, we're healthier. So our heart is healthier. Our stress response in the body is less too. So we don't have, some of that fight, or freeze response in the body. And then in turn, that has been shown to actually extend the length of your life. So just on a physical level, and how it translates at work is that then people are less sick because their immune system is healthier. That's another benefit. And then you have less people taking days off at work for illness.
Yeah, I mean, and isn't that what you want as a leader? In
Hmm.
I mean, you want people that are happy, productive, practical, that get along. And again, like you said, there's less turnover.
Hmm.
Um, People are willing to put in the hours that it takes to accomplish certain tasks, and when they do accomplish it, they accomplish it with a higher level of quality. I mean, it makes sense to me
Hmm.
that that and the money, I mean, listen, the money is also going to matter to a certain degree, but when you have that balance between the money and people being happy, I mean, wow, it's a winning winning combination. Listen,
Hmm.
we're going to take a quick break. We're going to stay on these because I want to know, Teresa, from your perspective, um what are some of the individualistic kinds of things? We talked about it from a higher level organizational, but what have you seen been the effects to people individualistically in terms of their lives? So we're gonna take a quick break and we'll be back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. Hey there, this is Brian with Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Soulivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you can learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So, how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free. Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part of this invitation to you, there are some free courses that are available for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoyed the Aspire Academy by Soulivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life. And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. We are talking about the secrets to happiness at work. And I'm going to begin this segment with another quote. And this one's from one of your favorites, Teresa, Wayne Dyer. He says, doing what you love is the cornerstone of having abundance in your life. Wow. Wow. Of course, he's always good. We left off in the last segment talking about like these benefits to organizations and ourselves that happen from, being happy. But I think I want to make sure that we leave people with like these actual secrets of the how to, like, well, how do I do that, right? And again, in this great article that you shared on these key 4 keys to happiness of happiness at work, there's specifically 4 pillars that we need to foster, grow, and practice in an individualistic way that will reap benefits for us going forward. And it's purpose, engagement, resilience, and kindness, or PERK. Yeah, I love that acronym, PERK. And so you're very familiar with these, Teresa. So I'm going to just kind of go through them. And so the first pillar of PERK is purpose. So kind of tell us about that.
So I think it's bridging that gap between our own individual purpose and the purpose of the company that you work for or the institution that you work for. So you would want to, that if you have particular core values and moral ethics in a part that you hold precious to you, you would want to ensure that the company that you work for also has some of those same things. So for example, if you are very big on ensuring that your work is benefiting and having a positive effect in the lives of maybe, who that business is supporting, then you want to be able to support that mission. So for example, for me, one of the companies that I work for is we do technology training for students that have special needs. And so the purpose of my company is to empower students through technology and doing that at school, which it basically helps with reading and writing. And so that is a mission that I also uphold. And so knowing that you're connected to that mission, whatever it is that company's involved in, maybe it's just like an environmental thing, for example. If you really are passionate about the environment and want to ensure that your company isn't creating more pollution and waste on this planet.
Right.
And ethically, it's like, how do you work there when the company you work for is destroying the planet?
Right. I love that. The next one is engagement. Tell us a little bit about this one.
Engagement is really, you feeling engaged at work and that what kind of things can increase that engagement. So even we talk about this at school, that when students are engaged, they're more excited about their learning. They're more curious about, things at work. They're not just showing up like a lump, right? Where they're just punching in and punching out. No, they're actually there and involved in the processes of what's happening and contributing to that. And where, they feel effective, they're getting things done, they're motivated, all of that. And so increasing opportunities for play at work can also increase some engagement. So, for example, Southwest Airlines,
Mm-hmm.
Tries to fold in some of that playfulness, that creativity. Zappos, there was another big study done there for that company with
Mm-hmm.
ways that they are trying to keep their employees engaged by including fun social activities that they can do at work, as well as outside of work as well, which basically increases your connection to the people that you work with,
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. I love it.
knowing everybody, right? Don't you think that having a community of people at work that you like to work with would
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a big proponent. I mean, you know this, of team-based, work where everybody's contributing something that they enjoy, and then because you're having everybody do that, then the quality of the outcomes of that team are much higher
Mhm,
than anybody than even having one person within that group dissatisfied with either themselves or the work that they're doing or the project as a whole, right?
mhm, mhm.
Huh, I love it.
I definitely think engagement is that pillar that involves increasing that community at work, that team
Absolutely.
at
I
work.
totally agree. I
Mhm,
totally agree with that, and probably something that is probably difficult for people at times to do.
mhm, mhm,
Um, and in speaking of difficulties, resilience is
mhm.
another pillar. How does this tie into us being happy at work?
Because we know that we're going to encounter times where we have setbacks, that things don't turn out the way that we wanted them to, in our life as well as at work. We might have been working, on a particular deal and it didn't go through.
Hmm.
Or, if you're in law, for example, maybe you were prosecuting a particular case and it didn't go the way that you wanted to. So there are many setbacks that we encounter at work. But resilience is that ability for us to bounce back
Yeah,
from that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Again, you don't pitch your tent, as you said. I love it when we bring in your dad.
I know, I love it. I can feel him smiling too.
Yeah, so beautiful.
But yeah, I mean, I think we have to have this ability to persevere, right? Because I think sometimes if when we don't do that, we could be so close to the outcome that we want and we give up,
Mhm, mhm.
right?
And that's where mindfulness is really a part of this particular pillar,
Right,
because when we are mindful, we're no longer living in the past
right.
and ruminating again in all of the things that didn't go well, our mistakes, our regrets,
Hmm.
and not so much in the future either, because then
Hmm.
we could be feeling a lot of worry and doubt and anxiety when we're projecting too much in the future. But just being here now and managing our emotions now in the present moment, that
Right.
often everything is good right
A-
now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the final one, which I absolutely love in the perk pillars, is kindness.
Mm. And that ties into what we talked about last week.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Being kind, right?
Being kind. How important is that?
Right.
Not only important just for ourselves and the planet, but also to our happiness at work.
Right, right. And I mean, and it goes into all these different things about, you know, um, treating others with dignity and
Mhm.
respect and empathy and compassion. You know, I just I think when we can put ourselves in other people's shoes and see things from their perspective, we grow into an understanding, but more importantly, a validation of those people,
Mhm.
and that they matter just as a soul and as a human being and as a colleague working at the same place. And I think that goes so far. I think that goes
Beautiful, beautiful.
so far.
And for those that are in management positions, understanding that it is more about cooperation than it is about competition, but
Mhm.
that it is in the rising of others that we raise ourselves. And that I think traditionally it seems that people that might be in those positions of power actually believe that putting people down
Yeah.
helps them to rise. But it's actually the opposite, that being a good mentor and being a good leader
Yeah.
is you being kind to your team
Right.
and finding ways of being able to allow them to rise to their greatest.
Right. Oh man, I love that. I
And
love
that then
that.
the whole team rises, and then the whole company does as well. So if we all looked at it of like, how could we really, in for those people that are in those positions, they have the, really like such an awesome opportunity
Right.
to help those around you that you're working with to rise. um, and then it just benefits everybody, all levels of the company.
Absolutely. I completely agree. This has been wonderful. Listen, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll have some final thoughts from me and Teresa on being happy at work. So we'll be right back, everybody. Quick break.
6 years ago, when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit soulivity.com now.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity, and I'll go to final thoughts from you, Teresa.
My final thoughts would be always to make time to connect and nurture the happiness within you. That if you are working 60 to 80 hours a week and you get to the end of the week and you say, my life sucks. Yeah, it does. Because how much time did you spend connecting to the happiness within you if all of your time has been consumed by work? And so happiness does, it does, because it's something that's inside of you always to feel and in abundance. But it does require you to, like, say, schedule it in. If you're that busy, then you need to schedule in time to connect with that happiness. And that's where your happiness toolkit comes in, that you
Mm.
should know what's in your toolkit, that when you participate in those particular activities, those things are a vehicle that can help you to connect to the place inside of you that is happy. So make time to play, make time to
Love it.
connect to
Yeah.
that happiness inside you, whatever that vehicle might be, whether it's cooking or playing with your kids, your pets, being out in nature, exercising, drawing, dancing, listening to music, whatever those things are, make time for them.
Love that. Love that, Teresa. Woo woo.
Thank you.
Mine, I'm gonna do my final thought as using a quote from the late great Dr. Martin Luther King, who talks about um, you know, using the PERK pillars in your work. And
Mhm.
he says, if it falls your lot to be a street sweeper, go out and sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures. Sweep streets like Handel and Beethoven composed music. Sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets so well that all the host of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, here lived a great sweet sweeper who swept his job well. I mean,
It's perfect.
talk
Yeah.
about talk about a man before his time.
Yeah. Love that.
Right? So, use those perk pillars and be happy, right? Regardless of what job you're at, regardless of where
Mhm.
you're, what your employment is, and you'll attract into your life more happiness, um,
Mhm.
which just is part of what abundance is all about.
Yeah, bring your happy with you. Bring your happy
Absolutely,
everywhere you go. Yes,
absolutely.
yes. Light up the world with your happy.
If you need to pitch a tent in that.
Yes. You're gonna see the crowds coming around.
Oh man, listen, you have a fantastic show coming up on Thursday with David Essel, I believe. And the topic is happiness is living heaven on earth, which is so appropriate
Mhm.
for today. Tell us about that interview with David a little bit. We've only got about 30 seconds or so.
It is just really looking at heaven in a different way, that it's not a place that we're going to go to one day. If we were really good here on earth, that's where we're going to be able to spend the rest of our days. It is very possible to live heaven on earth. So what does that mean exactly? Hmm.
Wow. Well, you're going to find out at 12 noon today on
Mhm.
the steps I mean, on Thursday on the Steps to Happiness show at 12 noon. So join us for that. Listen, of course, man, time always goes by so quickly. Ah. Listen, everyone, remember to follow us on social media. Um, you can find out more information about what's going on with Soulivity in general, as well as join our mailing list where you can get get access to exclusive content, and know about giveaways that we're going to be doing in the very, very near future. So, listen, on behalf of all of us, I want to say thank you for joining us again for another great episode of This Morning with Soulivity. We hope that you come back and join us every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern for our live broadcast, or listen Thursday and Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific on KMET 1490 AM for all of you out on the West Coast. So, thank you, Teresa. This has been fantastic.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
We'll see you next time right here on This Morning with Soulivity, where real conversations empower you every single day. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.